Misha, take it. Take it, Misha. Let's tackle the new MOC with only 4-star units and 4-star light cones. For the quantum side, we are going to be using a Xueyi team with Tingyun and Yukong, and also Gallagher, because he's going to help us break the fire weak enemies. Yukong is going to help our crit ratio a ton, and then Tingyun is going to make sure that we can keep our ult uptime on Xueyi as high as possible, just so we can keep on breaking that stupid dinosaur and Cocolia as well. When we get into the Misha team versus Aventurine, I built this team specifically to target the ice and physical weakness of Aventurine. So that's why you're going to see Misha, extremely high target ice DPS, that when you go against a single target, all the bounces are just going to land on Aventurine. Perfect. We do have Pela, right, to additionally increase the ice res penetration, and then also give us 2 forms of defense shred with resolution light cone and her ultimate, of course. And then, interestingly enough, Hanya is actually a great synergy if you don't have a sparkle for Misha, because when you keep on using skill points, you can make sure you're always topped up at 10 hits per ult, and then as well as that, sometimes you can actually sneak in an ult before he skills if you can get enough energy from that. And as for my Natasha, level 60 Natasha. We're going to be going into this with a level 60 Natasha, not even ascended to be able to go past 70, so let's just see how she can perform. Before we get into the fight, join the Discord, subscribe, and let's get into the fight. So here we are on the Xueyi side. Unfortunately, we can't actually use too many of our characters' techniques, so we will just go for Xueyi, hopefully take down the toughness of that dinosaur as quick as possible. We are going to trigger the Dance 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 off Tingyun, boost everybody forward. We're just only going to be attacking the fire weak enemy with Gallagher pretty much, and he barely has to skill. The only times we're going to skill with Gallagher is to make sure we can cleanse the speed debuff that enemy is going to give us, because the speed debuff going into the next wave is going to punish us quite a bit. So now, continuing to take down the toughness of that dinosaur. When we do inevitably get to Gallagher's turn, we are just going to basic and get the ult up, and even though we can advance him by using his ultimate, we're going to hold it. The reason we're going to hold it is because that left enemy is going to summon its little adjacent monsters that are fire weak, so we can actually break those with Gallagher and not have to worry about them at all. As for Yukong, her buffs are going to last into Xueyi's turn, which is wonderful. Going to boost up Tingyun, Xueyi. Unfortunately, we don't get the ult up immediately, so we are going to have to skill before. And another unfortunate reality that happened is that we actually broke the left enemy with Quantum as opposed to Thunder, so it wasn't able to revive itself and then give us more toughness to then take down with Xueyi's ult, which then would have translated into a set of follow-ups. So now we'll use Gallagher, just like I said, break those little adjacent enemies, so now we don't have to worry about them. Perfect. Going to reduce the attack of that enemy. I don't know if it actually makes too much of a difference, but here, build up one more stack for Xueyi's talent. Probably won't drop this fight, though, so the next wave, we are going to, get to indulge in those rewards from us building up all those talent stacks. As for now, okay, so unfortunately we did have to deal with one hit from that enemy, but it doesn't matter because now the thing's going to drop and then the other one dies. So, sorry, Tingyun. That's fine. So in an ideal world, right, we could actually just defeat both enemies in this wave. Okay, the thing is that then going into the next wave, we're going to have essentially none of our ultimates up, and we're going to be very weak. So it's actually fine to take the extra cycle, build up our energy as much as possible, build up our skill points, so that way when we inevitably do go into the next wave, we're a little bit more topped up, so that way we can deal a little higher amount of damage. Now, unfortunately, this kind of went against what I was talking about right now because it died a little too fast. So it ideally should have died to the drop, and we could have timed that perfectly because we can time when we get 6 hits. So that was not the most ideal showcase of what could have happened. But as for right now, we'll just boost up Tingyun. I was thinking about holding the ult because, Xueyi's already so close to the ultimate, but inevitably I ended up using it, wasting a little bit of energy. Now, just going to, slowly take down the toughness. Now we actually are going to skill with Gallagher, only because then we're going to be very close to getting our ultimate, and we might be able to get it with just one hit. So it did, you know, benefit us in that circumstance. And now we're just going to go ahead and toss all of the ults out. Pretty good. We're going to focus on Kokoya with Xueyi, and then once the dinosaur dies, then we're going to transition over and deal the damage. Wonderful. His ult does a crazy amount of toughness, and then this one also does a crazy amount. Imagine what it would be like with Ron Mei, you know, because that's just his own weakness break efficiency boost. Did trigger the follow-up, and we are able to break Kokolia, which is wonderful. Continue whittling down the toughness of that dinosaur. We'll just skill with Yukong. Actually, I guess we'll just basic. It doesn't really matter too much. Xueyi is kind of far, actually, so that was the right move. Gallagher is getting a little bit close to dying, so please do not target Gallagher, thank God. And as you can see, we're actually a little bit close to dying here because Gallagher is way too far back. So what we're going to have to do here is essentially pray, you know? It's a pretty good tactic. I like to use it sometimes when my runs are pretty risky and something could go wrong. As you can see, we're 4 energy away. So if we can trigger the follow-up, then Xueyi does get her ultimate. Luckily, Tingyun took the shot, so it wasn't Gallagher. And what we can actually do with Yukong is break the dinosaur so he doesn't attack us. So now we're not going to die. And with the crit rate and crit damage boost, we are going to use the follow-ups from Xueyi and use the ultimate. So this is actually a perfect situation. We took a situation where we were just dying, right? And we flipped it around on its head, and then we're able to output some serious damage. Crazy. At this point, we'll just basic. We'll get our ult up. It doesn't really make a difference what we do, actually. What we did was we skilled to get rid of the speed debuff on Tingyun. So even though we didn't heal that much, the speed debuff is probably worth it to get rid of because we do have the skill points. Actually, we don't really have the skill points, but Xueyi is 2 turns away, so this boost will come in handy. And now, unfortunately, we don't dance forward Tingyun by doing this, but she does gain energy from her basic. Could say one way or the other, might be better, who knows. We do want to break Kokolia with Xueyi, so that's why we targeted the left enemy there. And perfect. So it's been 3 cycles so far. This is the 4th cycle. Ideally, we clean it up now, so that way when we do inevitably use Misha, I've been saying that a bunch. I don't know why I've been using those string of words together like that, but hopefully we can clean it up now. One of the very important things to note the entire time while doing these runs in this MOC is that just keeping track of that MOC number and making sure you hit 6 every single cycle and only dealing like your max damage when you're at the highest number of stacks you can be is optimal. And Xueyi, finish it off for me because you are going to trigger the bomb. Beautiful. Now it's time for the Misha run. I'll be honest, this one took me quite a bit to figure out. There's not too much RNG in the run. What there is just optimal playstyle. Like, you need to play with optimal strategy and maneuvering to make sure that you can get your ults up whenever you need them and break the enemies when you want to. So we're just going to see how essentially the second half of this run is this close. Like, it is this much. So what we're going to do here is dance forward. Everybody, essentially, because we did this after Hanya's turn. Perfect. We're going to target the 2 enemies with the IPC stack. So now we have 2 stacks for Misha. And then we waited. Now both of the elites have the ice res from Pela and both stacks of defense shred, not to mention the technique 20 extra %. Right? So we were able to clean up quite a bit in the very first cycle. And now we're going to switch the burden onto the right enemy because that's the enemy we want to focus our damage on now. Do want to immediately pop this because Misha will die to that dot. Now, we don't want to break the enemy, so we would have targeted the left enemy if the skill would have broken because this enemy's turn does nothing, right? So that the turn after it summons the things, if there's none of the summons left, then it just has a blank turn. And then we break it now, meaning that it's going to have no more actions, no more turns, no more summons, nothing. This will be the last attack from the wave. It's actually good. Gives us a little bit of energy going into the next wave. And we'll heal up Misha and then reapply Burden. Pretty good. And now this is where we'll put the Ice Res on the enemy with the most health. And then we'll skill. It's going to drop. And then we ult. And this should clean it up and send us into aventurine. Wonderful. So 1 cycle for the first side. And now we have 4 left to work with. Or maybe 5-ish technically. So, right off the bat, we're going to apply Burden. Now, we only have 1 skill point, so it's like, oh, what are we going to do? Well, we have Hanya. So, even if we skill, we're still going to get the skill points back, so we can use Misha's skill. Perfect. Deal a little bit of damage. We crit. Nice. And now at this point, we can either skill or deal a little bit of damage. What we're going to do is we're going to skill, let it attack us once, and then ult. That way, when it does the energy sapping thing, we don't suffer as much, and our health is relatively topped up. Reapply that Burden. Hanya skills every single time. I don't think I basicked a single time with Hanya in this fight. We'll skill. Yeah, so we're a couple energy short. But if we do get hit with Misha, then we can pop it. Unfortunately, it didn't. So we were not able to trigger the ult before this. Doesn't actually matter, though, because we got lucky and it got Misha. So, either Misha or Natasha is the best character to take for that, or Pela if Pela has her ult up. So if Pela has her ult up, then you can just pretty much always clear it, right? Now, at this point, we have 6 stacks of the buff, so even though we don't have any Death Shred, it's actually fine, because we weren't going to get the Death Shred anyways. And I wanted to freeze, so I didn't want to break him with physical. I really wanted to break him with freeze. Very, very important to break with freeze. Because even though the physical breaks will do a little bit more, you want him to skip the turn. If he doesn't skip the turn, you're kind of screwed. So now we're 2 more stacks away from the drop. Perfect. Okay, now we drop the bomb, and now we're going to hold Pela's ult. That way we can deal a little bit of toughness. So this is optimal. Heal up. And then it'll sap us. Okay, so we have 3 cycles left and a bar and a half. Right, a bar and a half of health to go. Reapply Burden, and now we want to reapply the Ice Res. Or not. I guess that's the only time we don't apply the Ice Res. So here, if we're at... I guess it depends what energy we're at, actually. Might get the basic up. 64 means that we actually will get the ultimate up because of her light cone, which gives us an extra 16% energy regeneration rate. So the 90 cost ult paired with that crazy energy regeneration rate just makes us always get our... Reapply Burden, and then we'll see how much this drop does. So 14%, this is where things get a little bit interesting, right? Because it's like, how do you approach this? Do you want to kill it with Misha's ultimate, or do you want to wait for the drop to kill it? In this situation, right, we pretty much have to rely on Misha because we want every single drop to to pretty much kill. And the reason we waited there is because we want Aventurine's action to just be a little bit like slower in the cycle. So if he had died too fast, then he would have kind of gone again too fast, right? So now his next turn is after all of our characters because we waited for him to attack us before we killed him, kind of. I don't know if that explanation actually made sense. Anyway, Ice Res down again, both forms of Death Shred. This is a pretty long fight, so I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. But as for this, another skill. And this is an interesting situation, because now it's pretty much, yeah, well, you know. Oh, okay, so he, instead of sending us into the gamble, I'm actually not sure whether he can do one or the other, or whether he always does that first attack and then goes into the other attack. So because we froze him so many times, that was actually his first attack going into the second phase, right? So that means his next turn is going to be a guaranteed gamble turn. And what we want to essentially make sure we can accomplish is a Misha ult before we start gambling. Because if we can Misha ult before we start gambling, then we can get Misha's ult up once more. And that is the strategy for success. That is how we succeed. And it worked out perfectly. Genuinely, this was a perfect orientation right now. Because now we have the ult for Misha. And he is going to make us gamble. So what we're going to do is we are going to basic and then immediately ult, because his first action is going to be an energy sapping action and then send us into the gambling. So he's frozen, turn gets skipped. Now we reapply burden, and now it's time to gamble. It's time to gamble. Him making us gamble was actually the best thing that could have happened, right? Come on. Pela is going to get her ult up, which means she will win. Let's win, Pela. Come on. And as you can see, it entered the gamble at the very beginning of the cycle, which means it actually has 0 stacks from the MOC buff, which means even if we attack 4 or 5 times, it's not going to drop. We want that damage to drop outside of this gambling stage. Extremely, extremely important. So now Pela won. She's going to get her ult up guaranteed, and she won't take any damage. Misha won, thank God. Our gambling worked out in our favor, especially considering he did roll a 9. And now it doesn't really matter what Natasha does. We will skill with Hanya, just so when she does get hit, she will get her ult up. Don't know if it's really going to make a difference or not, but we'll accept the follow-up. And then we actually got extremely helped by Natasha's self-heal. So what we could do here is actually freeze with Misha's ult, but because our characters were relatively healthy, I kind of just let it go. Now we can get as many buffs as possible and debuffs as possible for our final Misha ult that is going to send aventurine to death. Thought maybe I could get lucky and squeeze an extra Hanya action in here. Now we're going to get up to 10 stacks. No reason to pop our ult right now. Might as well just whittle down the toughness absolutely as much as possible, because we will be dealing extra damage when he's broken. Pela ult. I was really scared I was going to not hit that, and then this whole run got ruined because I misclicked and then he sapped our energy. Misha, take it. Take it, Misha. It's over. Xueyi is going to be on Misha's light cone. Nothing too special here. On attack boots, quantum set, and on rutilant arena. Wow, attack orb too. Or attack rope. Tingyun is going to be super fast. Dance, dance, dance. Very, very helpful. Extremely helpful. Dance, dance, dance is so nice for these bosses, just so we can get our action before. Von Whack, one of the most important things to put on Tingyun. Yukong is on Cogs. I like Cogs on Yukong very, very much, especially if you can't guarantee the character to go before. Extra 5% energy regeneration rate, also crazy good on her. Gallagher is at 145% break effect and on also outgoing healing boost, right? So he has, or actually, I'm not sure if his boost is shown in his stats. I gotta check because I think I'm on a outgoing healing boost chest as well. Do have to check that out here. Okay, yeah, so I am on outgoing healing boost, but there's only 28%. So that extra boost that we got was from all of our break effect, essentially. There's a crazy amount of boost from that. And break effect rope for Gallagher. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Now, time for Misha. Misha is on the Herda Shop light cone. Unfortunately, this is my only light cone that's technically not a 4-star light cone, although it's a free-to-play light cone and everybody can buy it, so it's pretty much a 4-star light cone. I just don't have any 4-star destruction light cones equipped, so that is what we had to settle with. 75% crit rate is going to turn into 80 because we're on the diver set. And the extra, the debuffs that we can get from our ultimate and also just from the MOC buff itself, right, is going to pretty much keep us always with that doubled effect. All those Eidolons pretty much help. E2 is very helpful for the defense shred, and 6 actually does help also for the extra damage and for the extra skill point, although 2 I think is the great one. Pela, very helpful, synergizes very well with his E2. Pela is very slow, but Eagle Set does reverse that just ever so slightly. You know what I mean? Hanya is very, very fast, although she already has a ton of base speed and then also speed traces, right? So she's pretty much a lot easier to make fast, right? Yeah. Natasha, a lot of energy regeneration rate. So we have 135% energy regeneration rate. This is how I like to run my Natasha. Not that I use Natasha very much, but as you can see, Natasha is level 60, right? So she was able to sustain us this entire fight, and that's because she has good HP, good defense, good speed, and a ton of energy regeneration rate for constant ultimates. You know, traces are garbage too. Level 8 and 7 traces, and barely any of them unlocked. That is everything. Those are all the units. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any ideas, any suggestions. Leave it in the comments. Join the Discord. Subscribe. Like the video. Thanks. Adios.